and Vugu Nyosi means Black Power in Kiswahili, Black Revolutionary Now. Today, we honor the great Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, one of our freedom fighter, truth terrorists, knowledge gangster, which is his words. And we know Dr. Khallid is part of all of us. So even though he's not here in the physical form, he's here mentally, psychologically, spiritually. And these are our great freedom fighters, revolutionary fighters. We have to honor and we have to make that day for them, because if we don't honor them, who else gonna pay homage to our ancestors? We need to make it. Absolutely, we need to make it our duty to make sure we remember them on all levels. Because when you hear Dr. Khallid speak, it resonates with you. It put a fire under you. It reminds you of what we need to do. He always speak truth to power. He always relentless. Never back down. Never. So when we want to speak on great people who have came before us, Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad is irrefutable, one of the most feared men, not only in America, but around the globe. He was sharp on every level. No cracker, no scholar, nobody couldn't even come near him when coming to debate. He would shut you down. He was sharp as a razor. So he's one of my teachers. He's one of my freedom fighters. And we need to make sure we preserve his legacy and make sure we always remember the great Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad. Check out this video by Professor Black Truth, remembering the great Dr. Khallid Abdul Muhammad, and Vugu Nyosi, Black Revolutionary Now.
Our unity in sisterhood, brotherhood, and struggle is profound, principled, and forever. Our struggle is constantly and continuously against the oppressor and against all in us, which is in contradiction to our values and the choice we've made. We choose the liberation of our people as our life's goal and struggle as the method to achieve it. Our choice is conscious, full, and free. We accept all risk and welcome all reward it brings. We have nothing better, more revolutionary or rewarding to do with our lives than to struggle. Struggle to bring into being a new world, a world in which we our children and our people can live and love and create freely and stand and walk in a warmer sun.
As our Holy Days commemorations continue, today we remember the man who put the warrior in warrior scholar. Today is the birthday of the quintessential truth terrorist, the knowledge gangster, Khallid Muhammad. A man who made it a point to speak the truth no matter who didn't like it, even those closest to him. He never was one to back down, and there's a lesson to be learned from that. He spoke the truth to his people. If somebody wanted to hear a bit of information, he would remind them, do you actually want to hear the information, or are you looking for some white people who will agree with me? Now that was a completely different way for a master teacher to be speaking to an audience, but Khallid Muhammad understood that over the decades and centuries we have picked up a number of very bad habits, and the only way to root out bad habits is to do it directly. You can't tiptoe around it, you gotta come straight up the middle. If as black people we're going to be able to regain confidence in one another, we have to be honest about the fact that we currently do not have that confidence in one another now. Now that excerpt that you just heard from Teacher Khallid was an expression of the principle of jihad. Jihad, as everyone knows, means holy war, not just against oppressors or against enemies of Islam, but also against the flaws and failings within a Muslim's own nature. Corruption and weakness cannot be ignored. It has to be fought against. That is what Khallid Muhammad meant when he was saying that we have to struggle constantly against the oppressor and against anything in us which is contradictory to our values and the choices that we have made. The man was talking about commitment, which happens to be the foundation of all religion. Except what he was talking about was religion starting with you, your commitment starting with you. Before we go pointing at each other and saying what other black folks need to do, we got to make sure that we're getting things right ourselves. He understood that before we can have people held to a standard as a group, we have to first hold ourselves to a standard individually and be willing to accept the criticisms and critiques that go along with it whenever we fall short. That's what Khallid was always uncompromising about, and good for him that he did so. Too many times as black people, when we're looking to shirk our responsibilities to ourselves and to the group, we try to hide behind rhetoric about, will you do your thing and let me do my thing? We can't do that. And the reason why is white supremacy is a group sport, hence black empowerment must also be a group sport. And black people have to get past the idea that they don't have obligations to the group. And whenever some black person comes along and speaks strongly about those obligations, we can't decide that, well, he's not really talking about us. Khallid made it a point to be direct with everyone. He was a true original, part of the new breed of grandmaster teachers. He knew that we're at war, so he made every ideological contest he entered into combat. He spoke with the slang and the game and the toughness of the streets. He recognized it was a new day, so a new vocabulary would have to be used. One of the reasons that so many black people from so many different backgrounds eagerly listened to Teacher Khallid and identified with him was because he spoke with respect to the different religions in the group. Yes, he was strident, singularly bold when he spoke. But he also understood the reality that by simply not trying to impose his religion on others, he could win the respect of all. He made it a point to reach people where they are. That's why he spoke the way that he did. If the people are into this particular form of hip-hop or this particular form of slang, maybe you can open some eyes if you speak to them in terms that they're more familiar with. To a lot of people, Khallid Muhammad's approach might have seemed strange or unnecessary, but in reality, the only thing it was simply unorthodox. But then again, when it comes time to reach people's minds, do you really think that there's going to be a one-size-fits-all solution? You can't sum up a man in a single word, but if I had to choose one of the many words that best describe Teacher Khallid, it would be strength. The man had mental strength, ideological strength, spiritual strength. Louis Farrakhan capitulated to the demands to suspend Khallid from his role in the Nation of Islam. Khallid was repudiated by the U.S. Congress and the white media and the bootlick class, but he didn't so much as flinch. He didn't back down, he doubled down. Khallid didn't view his association or membership in the Nation of Islam as merely an opportunity for social climbing. To him, it was exactly what it was supposed to be, a platform, one that was going to be used to boldly and stridently advocate for black people's interests. And it was a platform that he used to great effect to provoke and galvanize his people. Now, of course, bringing up Louis Farrakhan, especially in this context, I'm sure is going to hit a little note with some people. But I'm not exactly attacking the man. What I'm asking you is this. If you got offended by my mentioning that Louis Farrakhan actually suspended Khallid Muhammad from his role in the Nation of Islam, then my question is, were you upset with Louis Farrakhan for having done so? Obviously, I don't want to relitigate the discord that erupted between Khallid and Farrakhan, but my point is that Khallid Muhammad did not back down from anything or anyone. He stood on principle, no matter who didn't approve of it. And that's very difficult for most people. They usually have one eye on their principles and the other eye on the people around them. And tragically, it's usually pretty predictable which one they're going to lean in the favor of. But with Khallid, you knew that his principles had to come first. And he was willing to take whatever the punishment, consequences, blows, and detriment came along with it. That's the reason why I chose the audio clip that I used for the beginning of this commemoration. When Khallid said our choice is conscious, full, and free, that we accept all risk, he meant it. And that scares and bothers a lot of people, because when you find somebody who stands on principle to that degree and makes it very clear it ain't just talk, well, what that also means is they're going to be not merely expecting it, but demanding it of the people around them. You can figure out pretty easily who's serious about it and who just wants to seem serious whenever it suits them by whether or not they actually stand on it, especially when they're being criticized. Do they try to find some middle ground, or do they instead make the case for why it is that they will not be moved? We know what category Khallid fell into. His intentions were as plain as they were honorable. He wanted the respect of his people and the fear of the oppressors. He achieved both. Remembering our heroes has real value, mainly because we learn from what they've done and we incorporate parts of that into our own lives and pass those lessons along to the next generation. From some heroes, we learn diligence in our research. From others, we learn eloquence in choosing the right words to express those ideas. And from others still, we learn to speak without reservation or concern for who doesn't like it. Having true holy days is important because by having annual reminders of the people and events that shaped us, we reinforce a culture that honors and empowers us. The more we reinforce it, the deeper it's ingrained within us. Today, while you're going about your duties and the workaday life and everything else that you have, make sure that you take out some time to remember and say a prayer of thanks for our brother Khallid Muhammad. Make sure you take out some time to remember what it is that he did, not for his sake, but for your own. You see, when a group of people have something that's important to them, when they choose things that are valuable and edifying for them, and they make it a point to incorporate that into their lives, it strengthens them. And so we salute our brother Khallid Muhammad. He opened the eyes of many and shut the mouths of many more. This is why we must and will remember him and cherish his contributions to Black empowerment, because by doing so, we will profit from his example.